I've picked a few records to try explain also the lineage of South African music, how it happened till to date, which is quite interesting because it's information which we are not taught at schools or university level. It's something which you have to really search for yourself, and I'm willing to share it with the whole people of the world. This is a musical series. It's a field recording done by Hugh Tracy around the 1920s. So this is the musical documentation of the music from the villages, from the Xhosa people, from the Zulu people, from the Sotho people, whilst they were still in their homelands before they had started coming to work in their cities. This documentation of music in a form of the people moving from the homelands, coming to the city of Johannesburg to look for work. And predominantly it's music which had been made from the era of Sophiatown. As time went on, Kwela music became the predominant jazz music of South Africa. He's the guy who really took control of the penny whistle. Back then, the instrument players couldn't afford to buy like saxophones and bass guitars and stuff like that. So the easier instrument which was accessible was the penny whistle, which was the main predominant instrument. So this is the guy who, the god of Kwela music. After Kwela music had developed, people from Sophiatown, they were shifted to come live in Soweto. This is when Kwela met Maskandi music and met Mqashio music. Here in this record, artists, because they were not allowed to partake in recreational activities, they would only subjected to work Monday to Saturday at their employees or bosses' houses. So the only chance they had to have fun was only Sunday. But it was quite tricky for them because Sunday they were subjected strictly by the law to go to church. So majority of them would find like dungeon places or a place where they could hide away and they would just play and jam for many hours. So this is how this record came to be. When the popularity of black people playing music grew, record labels like Gallo, EMI also would come and like scout for session artists. They would call people to just come and play, and then they'd give them a small pay, and even the artist wouldn't know what happened to the music. So there started to be a huge influx of recording artists. Then the SABC back then opened I would say a radio department which was strictly dedicated to black people, which was called Radio Bantu. Bantu means people. So it was radio for black people. But then it was in a free station. Black people's music was being censored a lot. The regime had a number of special agents working at the radio stations around the country. Their job was to assess each record before it would be allowed to be played on radio. Their tracks and albums would be censored that were not deemed to be appropriate. So it says, then it states which tracks are cancelled on this record. So this one states it's got a stick of 23rd February 1970. And then came a man called Paul Simon.
She's a rich girl, she don't try to hide it. Diamonds on the soles of her shoes. He's a poor boy, empty as a pocket, empty as a pocket with nothing to lose.
So this project Graceland is the one which broke South African music internationally. Because even black South African musicians didn't believe in themselves or didn't believe in their music that much. But until Paul Simon came and worked with them and took their music to Europe, it gave also South Africa a huge international recognition, of which a major project broke out of it, which is Paris Soweto. So in this, for me, are the most important documents ever in the history of South African music, because this is how our music got to Europe, being able to now go overseas and perform and really say and have a word to the world of what's really happening in South Africa, so that the world could listen out and help us with the apartheid situation. So this is the era of the 60s, when the traditional Zulu musicians from Natal came to Joburg. So now this is both a mixture of traditional Zulu music mixed with township kind of styled jazz or township music. So this is when the awakening of the black people saying, okay, when we get to Joburg, now we know what we can do. Moses Mkhunu, a very good Maskandi musician also, who also broke the line between township jazz and Zulu traditional music, you know. Radio Bantu opened its heart to now. This was after when the black people music stopped being banned. Now everything was good to be played on radio. So Radio Bantu took out compilations of black soul music, but it's music which was predominantly being influenced by the Americans. For example, the likes of Clarence Carter, Percy Sledge, James Brown. So there were also the artists who frequented and toured South Africa a lot, of which we adapted their style of playing music and mixed it with our soul music in South Africa. So Radio Bantu Hits Volume 1, we have it, and yeah, that's it for now.